Buckle up, nerds. It's time for the Energy Nerd Show. I'm Bruce.
And I'm Jeannie.
Here we go.
People ask, what is the Energy Nerd Show like? And basically, I say it's like the Song Exploder podcast. Like this, except instead of great musical artists talking about their creative process, we have nerds talking about things.
Hey, Jeannie.
Yeah, Brew.
Who's our guest today on the Energy Nerd Show?
We have Courtney Lane. Courtney is a senior associate at Synapse. Morning, Courtney.
Good morning.
So you sent us two figures.
Sure. The first figure I have with me is a representation of changes in residential customer rates over time from the implementation of an energy efficiency program. This is just a sample, so I won't state the utility, but this shows the long-term average change in rates over the x-axis, which is years, and the cent per kilowatt hour change in rates over the y-axis. You see change in electric rates. And there are several key components to this graph that are important. In the first year of this hypothetical energy efficiency program, you see a big spike in the yellow bar. That's the energy efficiency program charge. So those are all the costs the utility has to implement the energy efficiency program. So their implementation costs, incentives and rebates, evaluation, marketing for customers, everything rolled into program delivery. So you see that spike in the first year. Then you also see the impact of lost revenues, which I believe is showing up in red or orange on this graph. This happens when over time customers implement energy efficiency measures and it reduces sales to the utility. The utility has a set portion of fixed costs that they have to recover, so they're now recovering those fixed costs over less sales, which can increase rates overall to all customers. But then, because energy efficiency programs are also reducing energy consumed, impacting all utility system costs, you get avoided costs in the green bar, which creates a reduction in rates over time. So these are anything that helps reduce utility system costs, like lowering transmission and distribution costs that all ratepayers pay, avoided generation capacity costs, and wholesale market price effects, which is when you reduce overall demand on the system, it can actually lower the overall price of the wholesale electricity market, which then funnels into all ratepayers. So it's really important to take that first year cost and also look at the long-term net change over the life of these efficiency measures because they're very long-lived. Some programs have measures lasting out to 24 years. So it's important that not a traditional utility rate test is done where you're just looking at first year costs, because you see over time in that dotted black line, the net change for all customers is only an increase of 0.3%. So it really does decline significantly when you look at the long-term impacts of all of these factors combined.
Are these annual impacts or cumulative over time?
So they are annual.
When you talk about energy efficiency programs, this is for is it a whole batch of different measures of, like appliances and commercial retrofits? It's a whole set of programs, right?
Yeah, so this particular graph is a residential portfolio for a utility. So it's all their residential programs. So it's a combination of retrofit, which could have longer lasting measures, and impacts of home energy reports, which is just a 1-year measure. So it's a whole range. So this is looking at the average impact to ratepayers from the whole residential portfolio of programs.
And the first year is 2021. So obviously these are all projections. Where do these numbers come from?
So these come from the utilities annual program filing to their commission to seek approval. So a lot of the avoided costs come from the benefit cost assessment models that utilities will pull together to determine if their programs are cost effective. Those often come from the avoided energy supply cost study, which Synapse has had a hand in over the last couple of years. The rate inputs are specific to utility rate filings. So it is, what is the customer's current distribution charge? What is their energy charge? Is there a demand charge? the variable and fixed rates. And this looks at what are they before energy efficiency is implemented, and then what are they after the implementation of energy efficiency, taking into account all of these factors that occur on the system.
So in this case, the total conclusion is that there's a small increase over time on a levelized basis in electric rates from this bundle of programs.
Yes. And I should also state that this is looking at this particular program in isolation. It's not assuming any future energy efficiency programs. So when we look at the sales forecast and customer counts and all future aspects that go into this graph, it's looking just in isolation without future energy efficiency.
So that's the story on rates. I'm curious, what does your next graph show?
It's really important to not look at rates in isolation because customers don't pay rates necessarily, they pay bills. And the whole purpose of energy efficiency is to achieve bill reductions. So super critical to always examine the bill impacts in combination with rate impacts. So what this bill chart shows is that for someone that participates in energy efficiency programs over the long term, so the long term is defined in both these graphs as over 24 years. We're looking at a longer term study period to make sure we get all those longer lived energy efficiency measures. So this shows the average annual change in bills over the long term for the average participant. So taking into account the variability across all the residential efficiency programs. So this shows for the average participant, someone that could participate in one or more programs, this participant is much better off with the energy efficiency programs. They're showing an annual reduction in bills of 5.52%. It looks like roughly about $60 a year. So the point of showing these long-term bill impacts is to show that while rates may be increasing slightly for all customers, if you participate in a program, you're going to be better off, you're going to see a reduction in your bills. What this graph also shows that for an average customer, which is looking at the mix overall of participating and non-participating customers in these programs, they're also seeing a net benefit. And that has to do with the avoided costs that they're experiencing. And so blending that together with the fact that they're also able to participate in these programs, overall, taking the average, customers are better off. The non-participant does see a slight increase of 0.81% over time. And that's solely due to that net change increase in rates that was on the previous graph. And the important thing to note here is that it's not a large increase. And if a customer just installs a couple light bulbs, don't even need to do like a big undertaking with an energy efficiency retrofit or buying a new appliance. It's really small changes that will help bring them to a reduction in bills over time.
So one thing I'm hearing is if someone's an electricity consumer and has an opportunity to participate in a program, they should do so. And if they don't participate, they're kind of missing out. Although they don't get really hurt very much in terms of this overall utility program energy efficiency effort.
Yes, exactly.
And this is really good information to have. Like both these graphs are important, and you're saying you can't just look at rates, you got to look at bills. Energy efficiency programs have a long history in New England and California and a lot of places. Do you feel like this tendency for the people who don't want to do anything to just say the rate impacts are bad is still a commonly used argument, or does everyone kind of see you have to look at bills?
It's definitely still a barrier to implementation across the country, especially in jurisdictions that might be hostile to energy efficiency. They typically focus on that first year impact of the increase in rates. They really focus on the energy efficiency charge in isolation and not taking into account the long-term benefits. So it's really important that the message get out that this is really the right way to look at the impact of energy efficiency programs. One other thing I'll say on that is the rate graph chart also doesn't include every benefit. It doesn't include the social cost of carbon that isn't yet monetized in rates. You can really only include things that are monetized and actually included in customer rates. So that would even create smaller rate impacts if you were really including everything that is included in, say, the broader benefit cost test.
Thanks, Courtney.
Thanks for
Take care.
Bye.
Thanks for watching. This is Energy Nerd Show and Tell.
It's the show that we want to watch, so we're thinking maybe some of you energy nerds want to watch it too. If you do, then hey, tell your friends and subscribe right around here. Click there,
And check
or there, or over here.
Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and where
Yeah,
else?
and the Energy Nerd website at energynerdshow.com. You can always go there. And if you want to be a guest, you can volunteer to be a guest. We love to have guests. In fact, that's kind of what the show is all about.
Absolutely.